Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, November 2nd, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. So today, November 2nd, we celebrate the commemoration of all the faithful departed. There's also a couple other celebrations. In Abbeville, France, it's the celebration of Our Lady of Éminence. The shrine is known for many miracles and pilgrimages, although it's hard to ascertain the origins of the devotion. Also, on this commemoration of all the faithful departed, some people like to recall Mary in her scapular promise, and so they remember in a special way Our Lady of Mount Carmel. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this excellent devotion, the scapular, which comes from the Latin scapula, meaning shoulder, consists of two small pieces of cloth connected by strings, and they're worn over the shoulders, hence the name, as a symbol of protection of and devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary. This devotion traces its origins back to an apparition of Mary to Saint Simon Stock. He lived between 1165 and 1265. In this vision, as she handed him the scapular, Mary told Saint Simon, "This will be for you and for all the Carmelites the privilege, that he who dies in this will not suffer eternal fire." In other words, Our Lady's scapular promise is that those who faithfully wear it will not suffer the eternal damnation of hell, and through the intercession of the Mother of God, will attain the graces of final perseverance unto heaven. So for the coming months, we figured that we would try something just a little new here. We're going to be reading actually from two books. The first is The Admirable Heart of Mary, and that's by St. John Eudes. And also we're going to be taking a meditation from Marian Meditations by Father Ildefonso Villar, a Salesian priest who spent many years working in India. And we're going to do this because it'll help counterbalance, as it were, the two different sources. The Admirable Heart of Mary is very good. It's by St. John Eudes, but it can be a little dense and academic. Whereas the Marian Meditations are designed to make us, really meditate and think on the role of the Blessed Mother in our lives. So starting today, November 2nd, we will have this format. I'll make it clear which meditation or which text I'm using, but we'll have these two different points each day, one from the the Admirable Heart of Mary, and one from Marian Meditations. So for today's reading from The Admirable Heart of Mary, the writing by St. John Eudes, we start part 1, entitled Object of the Devotion to the Admirable Heart of Mary, and chapter 1, entitled Reasons for the Name Admirable. Let's hear what St. John Eudes has to say. Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, chose the incomparable Virgin Mary from among all creatures to be his mother, and deigned to be nourished and governed by her. In his infinite goodness, he also gave her to us to be our queen, our mother, and our sure refuge in all our needs. He therefore wishes us to honor her as he honors her, and to love her as he loves her. According to the Apostle St. Paul, Christ is the head of his mystical body, the Church, and we are the members. We must therefore be animated by his Spirit. We must follow his inspirations, walk the path he has traced, and continue, as it were, his life on earth by practicing the virtues which were his own. It follows that our devotion to his Holy Mother must be a continuation of his devotion to her. We must be filled with the sentiments of respect, submission, and affection which he entertained for her on earth and still entertains in heaven. Mary always held, and will hold forever, the first place in the Sacred Heart of her Divine Son. She always was, and will never cease to be, the first object of his love after the Eternal Father. And so he wishes that, next to God, she should be the principal object of our devotion. For this reason, after the veneration we owe to the divine majesty of God, we cannot render a greater service to Jesus Christ or do anything more pleasing to him than to serve and honor his most worthy mother. The human will is not, however, moved to love a fellow creature unless the intellect first knows what renders it worthy of respect and esteem. The infinite zeal with which the Son of God is inflamed for all that concerns his divine mother has urged him to reveal to us, through the inspired words of sacred Scripture and through the writings of the Fathers, some small measure of the perfections with which he has enriched her. The reality far surpassing our knowledge of her in this veil of darkness will be revealed only in heaven, the land of unclouded light. So this brief meditation will come from Marian Meditations, a book by Father Dr., the Reverend Dr. Ildefonso Villar, who's a Salesian priest, worked many years in India. And so let's see, this first meditation is Mary in God's mind. Let's hear what he has to say in the first point, the idea of Mary in eternity. All of us have existed from eternity in the mind of God. All of us were perfectly known to him. He thought of you individually. Billions of years before you were born, the thought of you was in him. He loved you already. Says St. John rightly, let us love God because he first loved us. If this can be said of all, what should be said of Mary? She, much more and better than any other being, engaged God's mind. The eyes of God envisage Mary, Mary before all else, and all else in her. This is his first thought after that of his own essence. If, by an impossibility, God could forget everything and ignore us all, even then he could not help seeing Mary in his mind, on account of her close association with God, on account of the union that holds her so closely to divinity. After the one he has of himself, Mary is God's greatest idea.
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.